Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you could join us today. I hope you are having a wonderful day. If it is a character building day, I will make it as awesome as it should be. You are listening to the Motivation Monday Power Hour. I am your host, Motivated Mike. Today's topic is free will. Now, I'm sure most of us, we think that we have free will. We believe that we have free will. But what if I told you that there were some convincing arguments that say we don't have free will? I'm just going to reference some material from a book called Free Will by Sam Harris. He's a brain surgeon and has a lot of interesting views about free will. He argues that free will is just an illusion. Now, when I first read this book, it took me about maybe 2 weeks before I went back to believing in free will again. It sounds silly, but let me explain the arguments. These are pretty great arguments. First, Sam Harris argues that the will has unconscious origins. The mind processes this information and makes its decisions subconsciously without even realizing it. We don't even understand how the process works most of the time. And this has all affected our decisions by the past, the environment, and actions we took in the past. One of the biggest examples, if we were a murderer, let's say, or if we knew a murderer, pick one, doesn't really matter. If we had identical cells and knowledge, we had the same chemistry, we were the same person more or less, it is hard to argue that we wouldn't have committed the same actions if we were that person. Think about that. It's pretty hard to refute. If you were them, you would probably have done the same things that they have done. And Sam Harris, he argues that we only feel like we are in control. A puppet is as free... Whoops, I messed that up. A puppet is free as long as he loves his strings. A cause and effect trail can be found behind almost every thought that we have. Why did I eat the sandwich? Well, because I was hungry. Why was I hungry? Well, because I haven't eaten in a while and my brain chemistry said that I was hungry. Other decisions as well. Oh, why did I apply to mines? Well, because the information that I noticed, that I obtained in the past, made me think that it was the best option for me. Now, you might say, but a person is free if no one prevents them from acting on their desires. And in the philosophy terms, we have the compatibilitist, and that is the person who claims that we are free if no one prevents us from acting on our desires. But if a thought never occurred to me, am I really free to do it? We do not have perfect information on the present. We don't know what the best option for us is. I mean, am I better off by going to the Colorado School of Mines as compared to a different college? That's really hard to say. We don't know. And there is no way that we would know either. And some argue that our thoughts are our own, and we choose to have them. But can we control our body producing red blood cells or digestive enzymes? It's basically the same principle. We can't just absolutely stop ourselves from having any thoughts. There's no such thing as a wrong feeling. And if one day we just woke up and our body stopped producing red blood cells, you would be a victim of these changes. You wouldn't have any power over it. People couldn't just tell you, just make more red blood cells, what's the problem? You would be a victim of it. But if we look at this truth and think about it, is it bad for us? It's not necessarily bad for us. If you believe we are all biological puppets, we will learn compassion. I read a Dilbert comic recently, and the worker asks his boss, "How are you so successful? Was it luck?" And his boss replies, "With my intelligence, I became successful." And the worker says, "How did you choose your intelligence at birth?" As you can imagine, the boss in the comic was pretty confused and didn't know how to answer that question. Love reading Dilbert, and it's a great comic. But back to my point, though. We will learn compassion if we believe that we do not have free will. If. That's a pretty big if. I know that not everyone will, and that's fine. And another thing was, if we had a killer who killed because he had a brain tumor that made him do it, or if we had a killer that did so with malicious intent, planned it out, and didn't really have an excuse, their past, you could argue, made both of them do it. The result is the same. Think about this for a second. If they became a killer because, I don't know, maybe we made them into a killer. Maybe I like to believe that the only monsters in this world are the monsters that we create. It is possible that the past made both of them commit these horrendous crimes. And the result is the same. Nothing we can do can fix the actions that they caused. So if none of us have free will, why can we justify harsh prison sentences? Well, we talked about habit earlier. What are the odds of repeating the crime? What are the ethics behind it? If they were to redo the crime and keep murdering people, if they were to keep stealing things because it was their habit, if it was what they do, who they identify with, then honestly, you could argue that we have a duty to society to protect ourselves and keep us safe from these people. So from this standpoint, free will is an illusion. But you also have to keep in mind, the illusion of free will is also an illusion. I'll let you think about that. Now let's argue for free will. Now that I've kind of debunked the whole free will, let's bring it back to where I am. So let's argue that free will does exist. And these ideas, I'll borrow them from Buddhism and the philosopher Alan Watts, because they have some pretty good philosophies. They know a thing or two. So, Alan Watts, he argues, we have free will to the extent that we know ourselves, not otherwise. Let me repeat that because it's so profound and I think you may have missed it. We have free will to the extent that we know ourselves, not otherwise. When you watch yourself and understand how you react with your surroundings, you will have free will. Every day, my dad would watch the news, and every day he would end the news and say something like, "See, this proves it. People are idiots." And he'd go on about his day with this negative attitude that he got from just watching the news. All these news stories, they made him negative over time. And he did this every single day. And when you notice it, you kind of laugh yourself silly. How much happier would he be if he didn't watch the news? I keep telling him the news is causing a lot of unneeded negativity in your life, but yet you continue to watch it. I don't understand. But of course the argument always is, well, how am I going to stay up to date without watching the news? Well, will you ever be not out of date if you talk to enough people on a daily basis? I mean, eventually, if something big happened, someone would let you know. I'm sure of it. I mean, I don't watch the news ever. Political debates sometimes, but the news, usually never. Anyway, back to my point. Watch yourself and understand how you will react with your situations and surroundings in life, and then you will have free will. If you know what causes your habits and how you can plan to avoid them, you will have free will. And it all comes down to the meaning that we find in our environment and the influences we allow to be in it. We can interpret everything that goes wrong in life as the beauty that it creates. We can focus on interpreting them as features and not faults. You were here when I was talking about happiness. When we build the brick wall, do we focus on the 2 bricks that were crooked? Or do we want to focus on the 9,998 bricks that were placed perfectly, just the right way? We can focus on the good, or we can focus on the bad. And here's another part. My co-producer is probably sick of hearing this, but I'll repeat it to you, just so you remember it. Birds of a feather flock together. We can surround ourselves with winners and end up as a winner. We can surround ourselves with losers and become a loser. It takes no effort to be a loser. Anyone can do that job. But finding people that help you grow in life, finding people who will help you become what you want to be, will help you reach your potentials. You want to surround yourself with those people, folks. And it also depends on how you define yourself. Do you define yourself as just poor little me, where everything just goes terribly? The whole world is against, just nothing that you can do. It's always some excuse for why you can't do it. If you define yourself as this poor little me, you will see that you have no control over your actions. If you think that you are just what is in your skin, this creates a paradox. This is what Alan Watts refers to as the tail wagging the dog. Think of life as a ship in the middle of the ocean. As it travels, it creates a wake. You can look to the past to help determine how you got there, but the past does not determine where the ship is going. You can also look forward from the ship, but you won't see anything. The ship will go as it will go, depending on what you do right now on board that ship. You can change the angle of the sails, and then you could travel a different direction. But you have the freedom to choose which direction to go. Maybe you're the person who says, "Oh, these sails have always been pointed to the right, and that's the way that they must stay." And then you wind up going in circles all day. I'm sure you know people who end up going in circles and just never really figure out what their purpose in life is. They just kind of keep going and going and going. I mean, it's like the marathon runners that don't make any progress at the gym. It's like their career is on a treadmill. It's the pun of the day, folks. But we can look to the past, and we can blame the past. And if you're Christian, we can go all the way back to Adam and Eve. All the way back to Adam and Eve. You probably know the story of Adam and Eve and how they took the apple and they said, "The snake made me do it. It wasn't my fault. The snake is the evil one." But you know what happened? God probably looked at the snake, and the snake probably winked, because somebody had to start it all. Somebody had to be responsible for getting life going. And this is a pretty interesting philosophy. I mean, it truly is. And focusing on the past, it really doesn't help us grow. We must let go of the past so that we may grow. I mean, a lot of people don't like to take risks because of how they ended up in the past. But these risks that we took in the past, even if they turned into failures, they still helped us to achieve our potential. They taught us something. We gained information, we gained experience, we gained maybe a new insight, a new perspective from the process. So even though we failed, it doesn't matter. What God denies is not gone forever. It's just delayed. And you got to realize this. We have the opportunities in life to keep going. And focusing on the past, it fails to explain learning. Think about this. If you're going to focus everything on the past, all ideas, all thoughts, all these ideas would come from the same book. The original first book would be all the information that we'd ever have. We gain insights from our surroundings. We gain insights from pretty much our experiences. Everything that we're talking about here today. Learning doesn't happen in the past. It happens now. Anything happens right now, in this moment. That's it. It happens now. Even though we can't measure it right now, it's infinitesimally small. It's very, very tiny. It just passes so quickly. But it all happens now. Even our memories of the past, they're happening right now. There are visions of the future. They're happening right now. Right in our minds, right now. They're happening now. And we can interpret the past positively or negatively. It doesn't matter. We can do either. In the past, do we always remember the past accurately? That's a debatable one. That's for a different episode. But it's, you could argue it. It's up for debate. And you see, you aren't just what is in your body. Your context is your surroundings. If you meditate on this long enough, you'll see what I mean. Just imagine me, just standing, just in your mind. Do I have any context? No. I don't even have any outlines. I have no surroundings. But that's not me. I am my surroundings. And I am how I think as well. And I am how I think right now. Not in the past, but right now. All these thoughts, they happen right now. So in summary, if you compare both these arguments that Sam Harris has made and both of the arguments that Alan Watts has made, you will see something particularly interesting. Both of them are right. Neither one of them is wrong. They're both valid, but just have different outcomes based on how you define yourself. Who you are defines if you have free will or not. By defining myself like Alan Watts defines us, that opens a lot of doors. So let's ask, who are you? Who are you? Could you write it down on just a single sheet of paper? Would you need an entire library to define it? Who are you? Ask yourself this. And most people, they will answer with just kind of a history of their past. Well, I'm Motivated Mike. I've got such and such education. I've worked at these places, this place, and this place. I've been a part of this club, this club, this club. I've won these awards here. But the past, all of these things do not make up who we are as people. That's not the real you. You aren't defined. You are what you believe right now. You can see yourself as a product of your environment, but you are the environment. Another thing, a lot of people are afraid of change. We are constantly changing. We are always changing. We will never have a moment in life when we're not changing. We will always change. But you must realize, this change, it doesn't have to be destructive. It can be very beneficial. You can decide how you would like to change by surrounding yourself with positive influences. Even small things like, well, what color should I paint my bedroom? Even things like that, if you believe in color psychology, let me tell you, it is a legitimate science. Studies show that the color yellow makes us happier. If we painted our bedrooms yellow, chances are we'd be happier. If we put a fitness motivation poster up on the wall of our bedroom, chances are we'd think about it more, and then we'd end up going to the gym more often. Things like this. We can create our environment that we live in. And it's pretty amazing, folks. And when you live in the present, things will be better. When you live in the past, you will never let go of it. You will be clinging to it. You'll be trying to chase something that used to be, but it is not currently available. It doesn't happen. It's just not the present. You can't have it anymore. That instant was gone. For example, if I'm treasuring this moment right now, it's already gone. That's it. It's gone. It's only a memory of the past. But if we live in the never-ending present and just let ourselves believe that everything is perfect, all the problems in life are not problems. They're features. They're there to give us a challenge and allow us to grow, to give us new perspectives. That is the really healthy mindset. And of course, some people, they live in the future. You can't live in the future. That never even happened. Like, there's some people that say, oh, if I won the lottery, and then they just spend a ton of time thinking about that as if it's already happened. No, that's kind of silly. I mean, sure, it might make you feel happier in the present, but I mean, it's kind of silly because if you just obsess with that every day, you will be disappointed that you don't live there. We live in the present, and the present is where things happen. And as I said last week, are you bringing gold from the past back, these golden memories, or are you bringing just dirt, just absolute garbage, things you don't want? Now, if you believe me and Alan Watts that free will does exist, you will see that you are bigger than your circumstances. You can make a change. You can achieve your goals. As I said before in the first episode, nothing can resist the human will that stakes its existence on its purpose. Just put your human will where you want to go, and you will go there. Just think about why you want what you want. Think about your dream. Think about your purpose in life. And if you haven't found your purpose in life, that's fine too. Continue to think about it. Continue to research. Continue to try and figure out what you're all about. I heard a quote today that there are two important moments in our life. Two. When we are born and the day when we figure out what we were destined to do, what our purpose on earth is. And those two moments are argued to be the two most important moments of your life. And I hope that if you're listening, you're on the track to figuring that out. You're thinking about it, you're persisting, you're continuing to explore and ask yourself. You got to ask yourself the right questions. If you ask bad questions, you will get bad answers. If you ask good questions, you will get good answers. Questions like, what do I value in life? That's a good one. I want you to make a list of what you value in life. What's on the top of your list? I guarantee that once you figure this out, you will see your current values. And if you want to, you can change them. You can maybe say, well, health wasn't as high on my list as I'd wanted it to be. Let's move it up a little bit. Or maybe you look at it and say, I'm not spending enough time being social. I need to make that a priority. Whatever it is, you can do it. You can progress. You can think about it and decide, well, this isn't working for me. I'm going to try something else to help me achieve my goal. And that, as I said before, the plan is less important than the success. The plan can be changed. The path to success, it isn't just one single road. I mean, I talk to a lot of people who think that the only way that they can become successful is if they became some entrepreneur. That's not necessarily true. You can be successful at being a manager. You can become a successful CEO without starting a company. It's possible. And it depends on your approach in life and the opportunities that you have. Success is talent and luck. And talent is just pursued interest over time. I mean, the more you work at things, the better you will get. And you will one day find that one thing that you experience and you say, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Very valuable experience. Very valuable. And I'd like to take some time here, and I'm going to talk about 2 books that I brought in today. Normally I only endorse one book, but I figured since we argued both for and against free will, I figured I'd bring in 2 books. Now this book right here, it's called Free Will by Sam Harris. It's a pretty quick read. It only has about 66 pages here, as far as I can tell. And it's very brief, very brief. You could read this in a day if you wanted to. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. But it's a very good book, though. And in this book, he just goes into all the detail that I wasn't able to discuss today. All of his arguments that we don't have free will. Maybe you don't want to buy the book. That's fine. You can probably find him talking about this on YouTube. He's a pretty popular character on YouTube. And he is a brain surgeon, though. But it's very interesting, though, just how he points these things out. He told us about this study in this book, and he said that what he found was that we do what we do before our brains even think about it. The subconscious mind, the neurons fire and send off the signals before we even know what we're going to do. They can sit there in a lab with you hooked up to this machine, and they know what you're going to do before you even do it. Very interesting read. It was quite baffling, just crazy. And then for my argument for free will, I just took the book Becoming What You Are by Alan Watts. I'm only about halfway through this, but so far what I've read was really good. Really enjoy this one. This one's a pretty quick read, too. It seems to be about 120 pages, so a little bit longer. But it talks about what you are. It talks about living in the present moment. It talks about how you can't live in anything besides the present moment. It's all happening now. And there might be a chapter on free will. Oh, I guess there isn't. But it does talk about a lot of interesting insights related to this who you are that kind of builds up to the we are our environment philosophy that says that we have free will. And you can look up Alan Watts on YouTube. He has thousands of YouTube videos out there. He was a British philosopher who lived, I don't know when he lived, actually. That's a good question. But his work is still in publication. He used to be a professor of theology and philosophy, and he wrote some good books and had some great speeches. So I'll let you go explore those 2. That's Free Will by Sam Harris and Becoming What You Are by Alan Watts. So now we're going to move on to the news of the week. I'd also like to invite any callers if you would like to call in. The phone number is 303-273-3304. I repeat, the phone number to call in is 303-273-3304. Now we're moving on to our news of the week. I'd like to welcome my co-producer to join us here and offer some insight on the news. So my first news story is that Mall of America is closing on Thanksgiving this year for the first time ever. What do you think of that? Good idea or terrible idea?
I'm thinking, what about all those early Black Friday sales?
That would be pretty funny if they just moved their Black Friday sales up a day and just said, forget all these stores, we're having our sales right now.
A lot of places are having Black Friday sales starting even as early as like 3 o'clock on Thanksgiving.
3 a.m.?
No, 3 p.m.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know. I mean, it'd be pretty crazy if people were waking up at 3 a.m. for this.
That would be crazy. I wouldn't be too surprised, though.
It would be like a physics lab or something. But very interesting story. We'll see if it promotes togetherness like they're hoping it would.
We can hope.
We can hope. And this is another inspiring story. In Vancouver, Canada, the West Kelowna Food Bank received a mortgage payment from an anonymous donor. And this wasn't a small payment either. This was truly a miracle in their life. A miracle for many people who don't know where their next meal is coming from. I'm not talking about a small payment of like, oh, $1,000. No, this was $190,000.
Wow.
Very big amount of money. So, what are you going to do with your money once you become successful as the engineer?
That's a good question. Once I become a rich, successful engineer, what work will I put my money to? I'll certainly have to do some research, but I really like the, nonprofit organizations that are working on bringing clean water to everyone.
Oh, yeah. You definitely have to be careful with some of those charities, though.
For sure, yeah. I'd have to do my research.
Yeah, I remember the story a while back when they discovered the myth and, like, 98% of the money just was given to one person in running the organization. It's just like, oh, geez.
It's despicable.
or the cancer research versus cancer awareness funds. Those ones
exactly, yeah.
Those ones are pretty interesting too. It's like I think we're all well aware of cancer.
Now it's time to do some research. Hopefully,
yeah, got to do the research and figure it out. 190,000. What an interesting way to spend that money. I mean, that's quite the opportunity, and it goes straight to the people where it'll make a difference.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Now they have more funds and more time to spend focusing on other things like feeding the people that come in.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of them, they might be poor. We got to have compassion for them because they never were able to let go of the past and they lived that past. And maybe it haunts them to this day, and that's why they can't bring themselves to, I don't know, being successful. It's quite an interesting argument. But very inspiring, though. 190,000 to this food bank to pay the mortgage in full.
Do you know, so that was like the rest of the mortgage?
Yes.
Wow.
So now instead of making a monthly mortgage payment, they freed up like $2,000 to just feed the people, and very inspiring.
Or
so now
$2,000 to feed the CEO or whoever.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not.
But a lot of the volunteers were inspired by this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Talking about money, here's another article I found on money. A University of Kansas student won $10,000 making a half-court shot. Think about this, a half-court shot.
Wow.
So, got really lucky. All right? Guess what she's doing with this money.
I'd like to say spending it on her student loans and investing it in college, but I'm afraid not.
I mean, honestly, that would probably be one of the acceptable things that you could spend the money on. But no, she's giving it to her grandmother.
Oh.
Who took her in from foster care during hard times.
Wow, that's incredible.
Her and her family. It's pretty incredible. It's very inspiring. And I'm sure that $10,000 is going to make an awfully big difference in their life.
Yeah. All right. I'll accept that one as a good way to spend her $10,000.
Why? Do you have some friends with poor money management skills? What are they spending their $10,000 on?
I was just thinking, college kid getting $10,000. If they're not spending it on college, then who knows where that could be going?
I don't know. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's going towards rent or food or
Maybe.
the alcohol budget. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, definitely a lot of money though. We'll see where it goes, or we'll see how that plays out. And my last news story of the day. This one's a pretty big one. This one I found very inspiring. A man posed as a delivery person in San Francisco to deliver donuts to top CEOs. And what he did was he hid his resume in this box of donuts to try and get a job with these top tech companies. Pretty crazy, huh?
It's pretty clever. Just give him donuts, slip your resume in there, and if you're giving it to the CEO automatically, at least have him see it a little bit before, maybe before he crumples it up or hands it off to HR or something.
I mean, honestly, it seems like a better approach than career day at the school.
Yeah. I mean, at least he's given donuts with his resume then instead of just handing out his resume.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like this career day. I went to the career day and you talk to some of the companies and they're like, oh, yeah, we're excited that we have to offer 2 positions.
Yeah.
And we're traveling to 20 different schools to fill this position. And we have a stack of resumes that is about 2 inches thick.
Ugh.
And then you never hear back from them. That resume just goes into the abyss of just resumes.
Yeah.
Never heard from again, and that's that. I don't know. Maybe we should start bringing them donuts in their office.
Well, good thing we are at the best engineering school.
It is a good thing, but I mean, 2 jobs when you're competing with, I don't know, a couple dozen of your classmates.
Yeah, there's still a lot of engineers here.
And there's a lot of other good engineering schools too. Some of them they go to MIT and other places. And
MIT, what is that? I don't think I've heard of that.
Someday when you have a successful company, you'll only hire from mines, all right? What's worse at career day is the companies that go there and they're just there for networking. You ever met one of those companies?
I don't think I have, or at least not that I've realized.
It is possible. Like, you really got to do some digging to find out that, oh, we're not actually hiring right now. Check our website in a few months. Those are the people that are networking.
Interesting.
They don't have any job openings, but they think that they might. I mean, let me just be honest. They usually don't. I do check their websites a couple months after the fact.
What's the point of them being there?
To network. So then you know their name in 10 years when you're looking for a job.
Then
I know, pretty ridiculous.
Then you might see their name go by somewhere and be like, oh yeah, I should check there.
I don't know, I find it pretty shameful when there's companies that are lining up at the door trying to get in.
That actually have positions
to offer. And they can't get in because we just can't find a place for them.
We literally don't have enough room.
I think we should just expand it to a second building and just keep it
That
going.
would be really good. Maybe to student center.
Yeah, why limit it? I mean, just allow it to happen and just progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could use that new welcome center with 3 stories.
Yeah.
Talk about excessive spending.
Man.
That's another argument. That's another day. Anyway, back to this man who posed as a delivery man, delivering donuts to get his resume
Yeah,
seen.
so what ended up happening to him?
So it took him 3 companies to try and get a T-shirt printed with the delivery company's logo. Because the first 2 were like, this is copyright. We can't do that.
Right.
Finally, he got a T-shirt, right? And of course, he walked straight into the building, straight past security. Security couldn't stop him. They just saw him and they're like, oh, he's the delivery guy. People want their donuts.
Just delivering the donuts. It's an important job.
We need that guy here. Let him in. Anyway, and the CEOs, as you can imagine, the top people were kind of like, how did you get in here?
Yeah, exactly.
But it did work out well. His dream of working at a top tech company. Even though he doesn't have any experience or a good education, he got an interview with 10 companies that he talked to those few days. And you're probably wondering, but Michael, how many companies did he actually attempt to contact? And he made 40 attempts. He delivered 40 boxes of donuts.
Hey, that's pretty good. So for every 4 companies, for every 4 boxes of donuts he delivered, he got 1 interview?
Yeah, pretty much. And 25% success rate, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
If I
that's
could
not bad
get-
for throwing your resume in some donuts.
If I could get 1 interview for every 4 resumes that I hand in a career day, that'd be pretty good. I'd probably have something, right?
Yeah. That would be phenomenal.
But yeah, you got to learn how to market yourself. That's what the game's all about. Even if you have no experience or no education, you shouldn't let that stop you from achieving your dream of where you want to work, your dream job.
That's fair.
Think about that.
And they associated him with donuts. They're like, that guy brought me some donuts.
That is also very
I'll give
true.
him an interview.
That is
As
also very
compared
true.
to,
Yeah.
that's that one guy in the suit that handed me a resume that one time.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology that goes in with donuts. I mean, people may not realize that, but there's always a lot of psychology with donuts. People love donuts. And if they associate you with donuts, good things will happen.
You're on a path to success if you're associated with donuts.
No, I approve of that idea. I mean, makes me reevaluate my my attempt at marketing myself. Just say, forget the LinkedIn. We got to deliver these donuts in person.
Yeah.
Spend about $10 on donuts and make it happen.
Hey, yeah. I mean, donuts are pretty cheap, so I think it was certainly a good investment on his part.
No, I never said what kind of donuts that he delivered, but I imagine they're the good donuts, the high quality Krispy Kremes.
Or maybe like a Voodoo Donuts.
Maybe you should tell the boss that you care about his health and give him a dozen apples and see what happens.
I think I'd place my bets with a dozen donuts over a dozen apples.
Probably a little bit better.
Maybe a dozen bottles of wine would be even better.
And they can get really drunk
If-
over
if
your
you
resume
some-
and say, screw it, yeah, let him in. Yeah, this'll work.
If you somehow can afford that for 40 companies or whatever.
Let's see, $7 for a bottle of wine. You could probably make it happen.
Yeah, but are you getting these CEOs cheap bottles of wine or like fine wine?
Take off the label. Nobody would know the difference.
They're like, oh, that's that guy that brought me that cheap bottle of wine. Who does he think I am?
So you could take off the label, reprint your own label, and say something like, oh, here's my qualifications for the job while you enjoy this bottle. And
Clever.
you're like, Motivated Mike's wine, vintage wine.
Yeah, print your resume on along with the nutrition facts.
Maybe a scannable link so you could take a picture and just
Yeah.
go straight to the topic, and go right to
Clever.
the LinkedIn. I don't know, I haven't really seen much success with LinkedIn, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does work. I don't know.
Yeah, everybody says it's really important and works well, but I haven't heard like really any stories about it doing its good work yet. So I don't know.
You always got to take what experts say with a grain of salt too. It's like, well, a lot of these self-proclaimed experts aren't really experts. I mean, I hate to tell them that, but it happens. It is how it works. Well, I guess that's all I have to say. So, if you're trying to get a job, if you're listening to this and you're unemployed, I guess try bringing them a box of donuts. If you still don't get the job, well, you still have opportunities in life. It's not the end of the world. You will achieve your dreams someday if you're persistent. And this guy, he went to 40 companies. Out of these 10 interviews, what if he only gets one job? That's all he needs. That's it. That's all he needs. So, I wish him the best of luck. I hope he has a successful interview and things go well. And the topic of next week is going to be thinking. What do we think about? How do we reach these thoughts? I mean, a lot of this argument of today was, well, we don't know where unconscious thoughts come from. But it turns out we can find out. We can do this research. We have some science that backs it up. And that concludes today's show. The next show is on Monday at 4. The topic will be thinking. If you missed any episode or would like to hear them again, you can find them on YouTube. The channel name is Motivated Mike. Stay wise, my friends. Motivated Mike, out.